Go ahead and get started with the recording here and share my screen. All right. So the purpose of this video is that ultimately you all watching later and watching at this moment will benefit from understanding how exactly to leverage AI to get shit done a lot faster. And this will benefit you if you're a coach or a consultant or some sort of expert, educator, trainer. And ultimately, it's not to make your life harder or more complicated, give you more to do or more to think about, but quite the opposite, for us to be able to streamline exactly what it is that you are, in fact, doing at this moment, and then isolate your strategy to create the best plan of attack possible, and then get things done. And that way you can move on to the other aspects of growing your business, growing yourself, spending time doing what you enjoy, etc. Because in the long run, ultimately, that's why we get started in the first place, right? Not because we want to work nonstop, but because you want to be able to spend time with your family and enjoy all of the rewards and benefits that your business growing and evolving can afford you, right? So I would say that before I dive in, the asterisk here that you should be aware of is that technology is going to be changing nonstop. There is literally no way that you can know everything constantly. So this is just in a nutshell what I have compiled in our community and also what I have experimented with or utilized for my own workflow. And so that's kind of like what I'm going to zoom in on and isolate for today's video. Okay. So are there other resources, options, applications, software that exist in the marketplace right now that could potentially be better or are on the horizon that I might not even know about or may not mention? There is that slim possibility, yes. But what I am sharing with you are softwares or applications I have in fact used, I have experience with, and I don't mean I just use them one time for 30 seconds and then I'm like, hey, I'm going to vouch for this option. But I am advocating or recommending for things that are very specific. And I'm going to make sure in this document you also have access to those things directly and the link to them. So AI is at this moment in time, excuse me, currently a large language model, which means that it's heavily dependent on information that is being fed into it at the moment. Obviously, there it's a little bit debatable, but it can't think for itself, right? It's not like a human being doesn't have consciousness or awareness the way that we do. And what does that really mean for you? Well, what it means is that it's heavily dependent on the input that you provide to it, right? And so a good analogy for that is when you think about a sales process, for example, you can't expect your consumer or the end user who you're interacting with to know everything about their pain points and the reason to which they're not achieving or reaching their goal, because if they were that hyper self-aware, then they wouldn't really need you, right? They wouldn't need your solution. They would have figured out a way to overcome that challenge, etc., on their own. And so this is the reason why when you ask better discovery questions, you probe better, then inevitably what that leads to is your ability to uh, create a gap, right? Develop leverage. And it's only because you have done the discovery process the right way and are inquiring and acting as the advocate and the supporter of that individual, that in the sales process you can identify if your solution can in fact help that person achieve their desired end goal. And same thing with AI. You can't ask a question of AI, maybe a surface level question, or tell it to do one surface level action and expect for it to spit out something that a thinking, knowing, educated human being might potentially end up doing. Because technology, as far as it's come, and it's great, AI can't do all of the legwork. Okay. So you're going to have to kind of play around with some of the prompts or the information or the resource that you are leveraging. And so the reason why I say that is because everything is going to require a little bit of effort on your part. And to make your life easier, you want to begin with the intention, the purpose, to make sure that you can get to the goal, the result, whatever that really is. So you're starting with a blank canvas, and regardless of the app or the software that you might choose to utilize today, by the end of this video, you're going to have a little bit clearer picture of how certain apps or software options that I mentioned might be beneficial to you in a specific use case. Okay. So you just need to be focused and know your intention so that it keeps your attention and the attention of your audience or your customer or your avatar. And then you can move swiftly in the direction of success. Okay. So there are resources we already give you. That way you can establish your specific plan of attack. Those resources I'm just going to show briefly, but they are already inside of the Skool community of Evolve that we provide to you. So this first one is inside this classroom section. So I'm just going to go there. It's in this selection, get 2 to 10K clients with a Google Doc. And it's called 80/20 and talk about Pareto's principle and why that's relevant to you. And also give you the math hook formula along with various content ideas and hooks. So you can see there's a ton of like ideas and hooks that are already created for you in advance. Now, what does that have anything to do with AI? Well, it's because I have utilized AI based on my best performing posts. I pumped a copy pasted version of my content directly into the OpenAI ChatGPT model, that is large language model that I was briefly describing earlier. I created a very specific prompt that I will show you in just a moment. That the very beginning of that prompt is essentially always going to be the same. At least that's the way I write it out at this moment. And it ended up creating for me several examples, and I just kind of tweaked them a bit to create those hooks and those ideas for content that have performed quite well. And I've given them to multiple clients and people who I've, coached in the past, and they've had wild success with those things. And it's because this large language model, this AI resource, can find the patterns and is hyper efficient quite a bit more than the average person. Also, emails to convert freebie seekers. That is another one that you'll find. Oftentimes, I advocate for, especially if you're a person who's already got a working coaching, consulting, expert, training business of some kind, and you primarily sell your product, your digital service, or your consulting online, then it's going to be a heck of a lot easier for you to also leverage email marketing as well in conjunction with whatever other mode of traffic and nurturing process you have at this moment in time. So right here under resources, you can click where it says turn freebie seekers into leads, and you'll see that it gives you a breakdown where I talk about the prompt, right? And it begins with your world-class direct response copywriter that's very good at mimicking an author's writing style. And then I put these kind of like stipulations. Your goal is to write a direct response copy to drive sales with the tone that is described below. I'm not going to read everything verbatim, but you can see for yourself here that I imbue into the prompt names, very specific. So that's this part in brackets, names, the tonality, and also the writing sample that I want this large language model of AI to utilize in order to get an idea or a frame for the direction in which I am trying to go. And so ultimately it stops here at the end of this part of the prompt, and then it spit out some information, and I copy paste this. And again, I did tweak it because obviously I have my own narrative. I have had my own journey, my own story. You're going to have your own as well. And so the idea here is that you're going to modify it that's based on your lived experience. Storytelling is so important in the arena of marketing because it is the thing that is the common thread, right? It connects that stranger to you. And when people are browsing on social media and they see that maybe your profile got recommended, or they see this video that you ended up creating about some subject or theme that they can relate to, when there is an element of storytelling and witty tone or something humorous or something they can relate to and feel connected to, it makes it easier for them to trust you. And inevitably, that can build rapport and establish the opportunity for them to potentially identify, hey, I want to buy from this person. So, anyway, I give you all of these different email style and writing and suggestions that you can obviously kind of utilize and modify. So, I'm just going to close that up there. And now we'll move on to this last resource that we provide to you inside of the Evolve community as well, which is the content calendar and batching planner sheet. When you click this link right here, it'll take you directly into an overview of the actual content calendar. But the link to the batching planner, which I love, is right here. You'll be able to click make a copy. I'm just going to show you what the original looks like so you'll know what you're creating a copy of. And here it is. It has broken down the months, the days of the year, and then also opportunity for you to select the themes, the purpose of that piece of content, maybe the format that you're going to select. So if you currently have a social media manager, or let's say somebody as a VA who's supporting you in this capacity, let me just scroll this over a little bit, then you can see how you're able to plan literally every piece of content that you pump out. I'm not saying you have to plan everything religiously months in advance. I tend not to do it like that. I usually create content on the fly, but I do have a repository of various pieces of content myself. So in the off chance that maybe I got ill, I lost my voice, something came up with the kids, then I'm able to rely on that database that has lots of pieces of content or content ideas so that I can just kind of borrow from it. So you can use these same pieces of content or ideas right here. I'll click on this one as well so you can see what this looks like zoomed in. When you click to access the document, it's got all of these different pieces of content and theme plates with examples that you can literally click on and kind of leverage. So the reason why this is beneficial to you and how AI can connect back to those resources we give you is that you in a way don't really have to think until it comes to the planning. So that's the before process, and the editing, where you inject a little bit of storytelling, a little bit of you into the piece of content that you're pumping out. And so if you think about it, everything in the middle, the meat and potatoes, the main portion, you don't really have to do a lot of thinking because AI, it becomes the fulcrum that you can leverage in order to make your life easier and get the stuff done faster. So let's move into talking about these AI applications and resources that have been helpful to me that you can probably leverage for your consulting or coaching business. For content creation and editing, I would highly advocate checking out Notion. They do have a free version. Paid version doesn't cost that much. And if you're a person who, let's say, for example, is interested in hosting a course somewhere, or you're thinking about creating your very first course, or you already have one, but you're not really a fan of having various different types of software applications or feeling scattered throughout, etc., Notion can be a great alternative that I feel is a scrappy way to pretty much host your entire course or a lead magnet all in one spot. And it doesn't take a lot of brain power for you to do that. And Notion does have, when you're typing in their application, they do have a section where the little plus symbol, when you go in there, the tutorial will walk you through it. But it allows you to also utilize AI to help you write and create or plan whatever the piece of content is. Plus, they have got a ton of different templates and themes that you can leverage that will streamline whatever it is that you're trying to output. For Google Docs, I personally am a big fan of Google Docs. I use it for everything from my video sales letter content to planning, let's say, a video like this, for example, where I'm going to talk about something that is very specific or themed. And also, I just like using it for myself to plan out different things that are relevant to the business and in my personal life. Now, for editing tools and resource tips, let's say you're a person who really likes creating video content. Maybe you feel a lot more confident in front of the camera. And so you want people to see and hear you, then awesome. I would probably recommend at that point, if you have the iPhone, or let's say some sort of iOS device like an iPad, for example, there is an app I have used in the past that does not require a lot of money, but they do have a paid version. It's called Captions, and it's where you upload videos that you already have created, or you could record directly into the application and then choose different styles of captions, and they only take a little bit of credits or tokens. There's also Loom, which I'm definitely a very big fan of. I think Loom is a wonderful alternative to Zoom if you're a person who doesn't want to create content in real time. Let's say, or you don't want to do webinars or workshops or master classes, but instead you're just focused kind of on the let me record it and put it out type of mode. Loom does have a paid version. They have a free version, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, their cap is like 5 minutes or something. But the paid version does have AI integrated into it as well, where it can summarize the gist of what you are saying, and also has an opportunity for you to send that Loom out to different types of people or share the information. Which brings me to, I just realized I left one out that I use quite a bit, and that's Miro. Miro is a whiteboard application. It's pretty similar to Figma. So if you're a person who likes to kind of whiteboard things by hand, I would say Miro or Figma would be very helpful to you. There is an AI integration built into both of these, and I'm personally a big fan of Miro. I use that all the time when I am like brainstorming and mapping the things that I want to create. And the component of AI that I personally love is that it knows what type, like what my habits are on their application, and so it will make recommendations or suggestions or try to guess what I'm trying to type. Then let's move on. We also have CapCut, and so sometimes I have made videos using CapCut on my phone, and also they have a desktop version that it also has captions feature integrated into the application. But what's really cool about CapCut is that based on what's trending, it can also make suggestions or recommendations for you. And there is a direct link from CapCut inside the app to TikTok, so you can upload directly to TikTok. And I believe there are other social media platforms that are optional for you to link to that as well. And it feels almost seamless, right? There is this um, loose connection or integration with AI where it's almost like it is, I don't want to use the word thinking, but it is going based off the context of what you've already input before, your behavior, your pattern of use. And then it makes a recommendation or a suggestion or stores based on your past behaviors and preferences what could be the next step, right? Which leads me to my next favorite for video content specifically. That would be Opus Clip. They do have a pro version, which I think is not that expensive personally, and I've enjoyed utilizing that. When I have a really long Zoom video, let's say, for example, like this one, and there are different aspects of that video that I know are going to be beneficial, but I don't have the time nor the interest myself, or don't want to delegate a person to it either, of assigning responsibility to go find the most viral or potentially um, organic content pieces within that. Let's say it's like a 10 to 15-second snippet inside that piece of content. And I also don't want to take the time or have somebody do it, because AI exists that can take care of it based on patterns of other content that have already gone viral, that it will know to eliminate filler words. It will know to eliminate gaps and silence. And you can change it so that it's focused eye contact in the video. There are just a slew of other things as features inside of this type of application. For example, especially if you are running some sort of podcast where there's like two different camera angles. I love Opus Clip because it will give a virality score. Like it'll make a suggestion based on what it knows is viral on social media platforms like YouTube. And then furthermore, it will also give the gist of that piece of content and give you an example of a title and a caption that you could very easily copy paste directly into your social media post. And so I am not saying these are the only ones. There are a ton of other options, but these are the ones that I've relied on the most. So Miro is great for planning and strategy. especially if you're going to come up with video content captions. I love it, but I think personally now I've been leveraging Loom quite a bit more, and then Opus Clip and CapCut. Absolutely. So you'll find occasionally in these docs the links. You can just click on them and then kind of check those things out. For trending audio, I love Talkboard. It does go based on what's trending at this moment. So there's just a quick peek of what that looks like. And so if you're trying to leverage trending audio to kind of keep up with the times and what's happening right now, then you can see how certain songs and audio files are kind of spanning the top of the chart. Another thing I like to do is I will oftentimes just kind of scroll on social media, on Instagram or on Facebook, and it will also make that recommendation to me if I have been watching a certain content creator who's not all that well known. Maybe they have less than like 40,000 followers, less than 20,000 followers, for example. Oftentimes, these small creators will also recommend trending audio. So that's been helpful sometimes. When I don't rely on those, then there is a little symbol that is also driven by the pattern and information on those social media platforms and the algorithm, which is heavily based on AI, that there's a little arrow symbol on IG and Facebook that kind of signifies what is trending or what is rising in popularity as well. Now, for creating visuals or visual aids for your content, I would advocate, and I've had some pretty decent success with Midjourney, also Canva. Tome is one I've played around with a bit, and Gamma a bit recently. Tome is where it's kind of like a slide deck option here. They've got lots of different templates. You just kind of like type in the description of what it is you're trying to do, and then it will create that deck for you and insert some images. Now, I do think that Gamma looks a little bit cleaner. I don't know if I'm logged in already. Yeah, here's an example. I started creating a breakdown of like a new onboarding format for our Evolve community. And so this is kind of the gist of what that will look like. But I just love how it to a certain extent, it's almost like it thinks based on what you have typed or input or made a suggestion or a request about. And Canva isn't all that far off from those things. It will leverage visuals that are trending, but also it can make suggestions on what to write or type or what to fix based on what you've already put in there. Now, for research and strategy, I like to use ChatGPT, which when you click on this link here, it'll kind of take you to that view and you can just type in a very similar prompt to what I showed you a bit earlier. You are a world-class direct response copywriter. You are a etc. And you're giving it the frame for what it is that it's going to create or borrow from. And if there's tone or certain things that need to be left out or the formatting, you can input that as well. Perplexity is a really wonderful resource because oftentimes ChatGPT will give you information that's great, but sometimes there is a bit of fact checking that might be missed. And so Perplexity serves the purpose of qualifying the information and aims to give you the most accurate data. Excuse me. Now for Writesonic and Jasper, I have used Writesonic only a handful of times. Same with Jasper, handful of times. And it's been helpful in the sense of planning a piece of content or writing an email or kind of streamlining maybe my thought process and just keeping my ideas organized. There are lots of other resources that you can leverage as well, like Evernote, for example, that I don't have a lot of experience with, but I know there are tons of apps and resources out there that do have kind of the same, they fall into the same category, if you will. Now, Hemingway, I love personally because it takes the words you've written and it will tell you the grade level at which those words are compiled. And oftentimes I have found that when I write second grade or so, maybe even lower, like first grade, that those pieces of content tend to perform the best. And I think it's because they're a lot more readable and easy to understand. They don't take a lot of brain power. And so it's easier, oftentimes, especially when there's an element of storytelling, for people to relate to that piece of content. For URL Genius, I am not saying this part is necessarily AI, but it has been very helpful because it creates a deep link that when you are, let's say, recommending somebody to join your Facebook group, or you want somebody to go to a specific post on, let's say, Instagram, for example, oftentimes when people are browsing and maybe you're typing on the computer, kind of like I am showing this at this moment in time, it doesn't always, for whatever reason, direct that person who clicks that link back to the application. And unfortunately, if your whole funnel is dependent on a Facebook group or a YouTube video, or let's say an Instagram post to get people to have conversation with you or nurture, that relationship even further and become more aware of you and feel close or trusting of whatever it is that you're saying, if they have a hurdle or there is friction, then it kind of breaks the sales process and makes things a lot harder for that person to inevitably say, yeah, let me buy from this individual. So I like URL Genius, and I'm going to make this suggestion to you now that if you have a funnel that is dependent on social media or content or some sort of very specific social media platform, then it would be helpful to have a deep link so that when the person clicks the link, wherever it exists, in your email, on your Facebook profile, in a DM, it takes them immediately to the application that is relevant or tied back to whatever the thing is that you're trying to get across. So, because the majority of people who are browsing the internet are oftentimes on a mobile device, then it's a lot easier for that person to say yes, or this was easy or simple. And it just increases the trust factor that much more. And then for Google, I threw this in personally because I use Google for almost everything. I know there's a lot of people who are kind of on the fence or are very particular about privacy concerns, etc. This video isn't about those topics. I'm not saying they don't exist, but this video is not about that. I just find Google to be very, very helpful or beneficial when I need to translate something quickly or answer a question immediately. Let's say upload a picture and reverse image search something. And so that also is kind of, to a certain extent, leveraging AI. You can ask Google specific questions, almost like you would ask Siri certain questions. And so that's why I've thrown it in here. Now, my recommendation to you, since I've covered all of these different applications and resources, is to keep things simple for yourself. Plan at least one piece of content, text or a video, and upload that today to your profile somewhere, wherever you have a following, even if it's small. Okay. So, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, for example, after using at least one AI resource, perhaps that I mentioned or something that you've already known about and been meaning to try in order to improve your content. Again, we can't know everything, we can't be everywhere at one time, but it would be wonderful for you to get a step in the right direction, create that piece of content, put yourself out there because people can't buy from you if they don't know that you're out there and they don't know what you have to offer. So, in a nutshell, that is AI for coaches and consultants to get shit done faster. Thanks so much, guys, for being here.